Hey team, welcome back to the Uncomfortable is OK podcast. I'm your host Chris Desmond. This is the show where we try and figure out how to get better at doing the hard stuff that makes life exciting. Today I've got something a little bit different for you. It's not an interview episode. It is me answering a few questions that were posed to me by one of my friends here in Wellington, Peter Halstead, who runs his own physiotherapy practice here. And they're questions around resilience and around getting better at doing hard things. And there's about 10 or 12 of them. They're all really short answer. I answer them in less than kind of a minute each. So they're just really quick snippets, but hopefully you find some really interesting practical stuff that is going to be helpful for you during this time. The first one that I'm going to give you is one called emotion surfing. So have a think about any emotion that you've ever experienced: happiness, sadness, joy, fear, sorrow. Basically it starts, it builds up, and then it goes down and it crashes as well. It's almost like a wave. And in times like this, what can happen is when it builds up, it can crush us and make us feel like we're just getting squashed under this emotion. When this happens, what we can think about instead is that we can think about surfing that emotion. As it starts to build up, we just surf along, we float along with it rather than getting pummeled underneath. And sooner or later, it's going to spit us out the other side. So even if it's some sadness, even if it's some fear, feeling that emotion, surfing along with it and letting it push you out the other side. And often that almost leaves you with a sense of excitement afterwards. Okay, strategy number 2. When we're scared, when we're afraid, when we're in uncomfortable situations, our body's threat response is elevated. Our autonomic nervous system is just jacked up. And that causes us to react to situations rather than responding logically. So what I want you to do is when you notice that you're scared, when you notice that you're afraid, when you're noticing that you're getting really reactive, I want you to stop. I want you to take between 5 and 10 deep, slow breaths. And what that does is, one, it gives you a little bit of space to think. It allows you to create some logical decisions. But also what it does is taking those breaths just dampens down the effect of the autonomic nervous system. It lowers the threat response so that we can start to make better decisions, so we don't put ourselves in worse situations because of the reaction. All right, strategy 3 is to compare down, because no matter how bad our situation is, no matter how much threat we're under, there's always going to be people who are worse off than us. So I want you to stop. I want you to have a think about these people, about what the worst case situation could look like. And I want you to spend 5 minutes on that. Like, what are the people in other countries going through right now? What's happening there? And if you spend a little bit of time looking at that situation and imagining that you were in it, when you come back to your own situation, suddenly it doesn't seem so bad. It lifts a bit of load off. It lifts a little bit of pressure off you. So compare down. Don't compare up to the people who are doing well. Compare down to the people who are worse off than you, because there's always someone who's struggling more than you are. So there's a buttload of health and wellness advice about how you should be looking out after yourself on social media at the moment. And to be honest, 98% of it is great, but it's a little bit overwhelming. So I think in a situation like this, what we want to do is we want to really just strip it back to basics. So how can I make sure that I'm getting enough sleep? How can I make sure that most of the time I'm eating really healthy with lots of veggies? How can I make sure that I'm spending time with those people that I love and telling them that I love them? How can I make sure that I'm drinking enough water? How can I make sure that I'm moving my body in a way that I will like every day? And how can I make sure that I'm taking some time for me every day? And if you can do that, then everything else is just gravy. Okay. So tip number 1, to help look after yourself as we start to transition back to the new normal, whatever that looks like. So the first tip is just to check in with yourself on a daily basis or a couple of times a day, just to have a think about how much load you're under, because we've all got multiple stresses on us right now, different ones from what we would normally do. And the only way that we can start to address those stresses is to first become aware of them. So schedule a little bit of time, 2 minutes here and there throughout the day, just to have a check-in and ask yourself, what load am I under at the moment and how am I coping with it? So tip number 2 for how you can help look after yourself as we transition back to that new normal is, after you've started to develop a little bit of awareness about the stresses and the load that you're under, I want you to have a think about, what things can I do, what can I put in place to try and take some of that load off me? What is the stuff that I usually do to make myself feel good? Is it going out for a run? Is it doing a workout? Is it going and having a coffee on the deck in the sun while I listen to the birds? Is it calling my mate for a 10-minute chat? These don't have to be massive big things. They just have to be some small things that take a little bit of load and take a little bit of stress off us in this time period. Okay, so tip number 3, how can you look after yourself as you transition back to the new normal? What can you say no to? Most of us are really guilty of loading ourselves up with different things to do, and loading ourselves up with different things to do that probably aren't really that important. So I want you to write down a list of all the things that you should do, or all of the things that you need to do. And then I want you to have a really good hard look at that list and just cross off the ones that aren't actually important, that this isn't going to help you look after yourself. It's not going to help you look after your family. It's just needless pressure that you're piling on yourself. So ask yourself the question, what can I say no to right now? So resilience is a word that gets bandied around a lot at the moment, as well as our need to be resilient. And basically, in a nutshell, resilience is our ability to navigate and recover from challenges so that we come out the other side stronger. And we've been punched in the face by COVID in the lockdown period, and the next probably 3 to 6 to 12 months aren't going to be a whole heap easier for us. They're going to be tough. And some days we're going to have times where we're feeling on top of things, and other days we're going to have times where we're feeling like we're getting crushed by everything. And that's okay, that's really normal. But an important part of resilience is to make sure that after we've had those days that we're feeling like we're getting crushed by everything, that we dust ourselves off and we keep working through the challenges rather than just curling up in a ball and stopping. All right, tip number 1 to help you and your family be more resilient over this period of time. It's create something to hope for. Sit down, have a conversation with your family, with your flatmates, with your whoever it is that you're living with, about what are we hoping to come out of this like, and create a really clear concept around that. Because if you're hoping for something, if you wake up in the morning and you're working towards something that you're hoping for, then it makes it much easier to keep going when times get tough, as they are invariably going to over this period. So tip number 1, create something to hope for. Tip number 2, to help you and your family be more resilient through this time period. Set up some really healthy systems. Set up some routines over the course of the day, over the course of the week. Okay, what is it that I'm going to be doing at this time? Can I do the same thing every day? When am I going to be exercising? When am I going to be going to bed? When am I going to be eating my healthy meals? How am I going to be getting my healthy food? When am I going to be taking some time for myself? When am I going to have great interactions with my family? If you don't do this, then you're having to make decisions all the time, which is going to suck your energy and really make it hard to cope. All right, so third tip to help you and your family be more resilient. It's really simple. It's be your friend. Because it's really easy to beat ourselves up in these situations, especially when things aren't going the way that we'd hoped or the way that we'd expected. we start calling ourselves names, we start getting down on ourselves, which means that we really struggle to tackle challenges and to navigate through them. But just have a think about, what would your friend say to you in this instance? They'd probably be pretty proud of how you're coping under all of this pressure. And one way that you can be your friend, it's a way that I use, is to sit down at the end of the day and just think of 3 really simple things that you're proud of yourself for that day. There you have it, team. I hope that one was helpful for you. As I said, some really short practical tips about getting better at doing difficult things and getting through this time. If you need some more help, if your organisation needs some more help, then just flick me an email, chris@chrisdesmond.nz. More than happy to help out, even if it's just to bounce a few ideas around. Thank you to Jylan for your awesome editing skills. Thank you to my brother Jeremy Desmond for the amazing theme music. Thank you as always to you guys for taking the time to get uncomfortable with us this week. I hope you're all safe and well, and I'll talk to you again soon.